another episode of Guarani Vision. Welcome to the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me as always are Federico Perez, Maria Britos, and Ralph Hanna. And guys, we unfortunately don't have the riches to create our own Super League that's going on in Europe. And, everything that's been going on over there is maybe as finally finds out how crazy it is in South America. But we do have our own Super League of what's going on in Paraguay because that league has been superly crazy. I mean, it's been incredible to see so many changes. We got Libertadores happening this week. It's back. Well, the group stage at least. Two of our teams will be in action in this competition. We're getting Paraguayan players scoring abroad as well. And we also saw the lower tiers get their league started, or the Intermedia and the third division in Paraguay. So I'll set it all the way to the mother country, to Fede, to speak first. I mean, yeah, Europe is really trying its best to make it look like South America. But how are you, Fede?
Hi, Roberto. Yeah, I wasn't expecting Europe to have the same problems that we had here in South America, but it's true. Let's leave it to them to resolve it. Let's leave it to them to see what happens. So I'm waiting for the next news from that. It's been tremendous what's been going on these last couple of hours. Obviously, it's a news out there on the world, but we have our own news. We have our own problems always here in Paraguay. Thanks for everyone joining us again. First of all, if it's your first time here, welcome. If you're coming back for more Paraguayan football, thank you for joining us like always. Happy to hear that our favorite anchor, Roberto, already got his vaccine last week. Hopefully, we have the same news from Ralph, from Maria in a couple of days in Miami. It's probably a little bit easier in Connecticut to get it, like Roberto. But yeah, I'm happy. It's been a very, very productive, busy couple of days here this past week. Been really busy with a lot of work, with a lot of football on me. With everything that's been going on here in Paraguay, just like Roberto was saying, the lower division is always also starting, and I work for the TV company that has the rights, so I have a lot of work going on for me. Thankfully, that's good news. On a personal note, I saw a lot of football this past weekend, but we should mention one of the games that I did, River Plate versus Sol de America. For instance, I should mention that Sol de America won their first game under Coach Almeida. That's something that we've been waiting for, or they've been waiting for, especially in Sol de America. The final score was 3-0, and this 3-0 ended up with Coach Kike Landaida from River Plate, the other team. After only managing 7 games, he quit his job, and they hired back Celso Ayala again. Yeah, they hired him again. He was their coach in 2020, and well, he actually started this 2021 in South America. So look how everything connects to this latest news here in Paraguay. The change of coaches, something that always goes on here. The coaches, they have a couple of bad games and they need to quit, or they just have to leave. And that's something that always happens here. Bad news for River. They are last. South America is also down there, but at least they got their first win under Almeida, their new head coach. Obviously, I'm going to talk about those lower leagues because I did do, for instance, this past weekend, the third division had its opening game, which was Deportivo Recoleta versus Pilcomayo. I can talk a little bit about what I saw from there, what I'm seeing from Intermedia, the second division also. Not the results, not the game itself, but, just an overview of what's going on over there. We can talk about that. Obviously, ahead, we have so much in the first division. This tight race is just amazing, everything that's going on. I'm actually enjoying it, this tight race for the title. Libertad won their last 2 matches. They are at top. Nacional is in the fight after beating Sportivo Luqueño. Olimpia beat Guaireña. Too bad for Guaireña. I'm sad for Maria's team. These last 2 games hasn't gone for them, and maybe we just have to take them out of the fight now, and maybe even Cerro Porteño after losing also to Libertad. We'll talk about these games, preview of Libertadores. We got so much to talk about, Roberto, today. Let's just enjoy it.
And I thought there was so much to talk about in Europe, but apparently there's more things to talk about in Paraguay. But I'll go to Maria on you on this one. I think it's better to stay on our side of the ocean because everything is going over there in Europe. They can handle their drama. We have some more interesting drama to deal with over there in Paraguay.
Oh, for sure. This week in football, it has been just crazy. I don't think I've ever experienced something like this before. But talking about Paraguay and our teams, both of my teams, if you guys know me, played against each other, and my original team, Olimpia, ended up winning. So it was a good game for them. I think they're on good spirits. They're going into the Libertadores with a good win in their hands, and I think they're confident. They looked confident. They had a great comeback after Guarani scored their first goal. And I like this Olimpia as of right now. Guarani, like you guys said, we're not doing so well, but they're playing against the giants like Olimpia. It's although their last time that they met, it was a different story, but other than that, I'm looking forward to talking about Tony Sanabria, who had a very good game. And I'm glad that he's doing much better. We'll talk about how he's doing comparing to Real Betis, his time in Real Betis. So a lot going on this week. Guys, just let's focus on South America and forget about Europe.
Yeah, and I do want to bring in our Arsenal Super League fan at the moment because, yeah, I think we've escaped everything that's going on in Europe because it almost as if we feel that everything that's going on in South America is crazy enough. But with the Libertadores beginning, with the league heating up, obviously other things happening, let's focus there, Ralph, don't you think?
For sure. Let's keep it there. It's much easier. For once, it's easier to focus on South America than what's going on with Champions League and Europa League and all that kind of stuff. Hello everybody. Firstly, thanks for joining. We're talking Copa Libertadores. Just a reminder, we did a great interview with Jordan Floret from Red Wine and Arepas, who talked about some of that Venezuelan opposition. So as we go into recording, that's already up live, and you can see Olimpia play. They're actually in Venezuela right now to play Táchira tomorrow, as we're recording on a Monday night. So he's got some great information there. And then we talked a little bit about Deportivo La Guaira, who Cerro will end up playing. But this week, Cerro also traveling. I think they're probably on the plane still as we're recording. They're heading to Bucaramanga on the border almost with Venezuela, but the Colombian side, to take on América de Cali, which is kind of a strange, game that they're playing so far away from Cali Stadium, but Cali Stadium is being renovated for the Copa America, so they end up playing over there. And those are like the two, I would say, key games this week that we're coming up midweek in the Libertadores. So Sudamericana action as well. Our Paraguayan teams are playing Sudamericana when the group stages start, which is also a brand new format for the Sudamericana, the first time they do group stages. And then we've got the big games that we just had at the weekend, and there's more coming because with these 5 teams in the title race, they always end up playing against each other at least 1 or 2 each week. So a lot going on, plenty to focus on in South America.
So let's remove all this stuff of a super league or whatever. Let's talk about our own situation that's going on. And we're going to actually talk about the Libertadores beginning because obviously 2 of our teams will be participating in the Copa Libertadores this season. They will be in action Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively. Olimpia will travel to Venezuela to take on Deportivo Táchira, while on the Wednesday, Cerro Porteño will be taking on América de Cali in Colombia. Both these teams come with different results over the weekend, as we spoke about in the introduction. Olimpia got their 2-1 win over Guarani, whereas Cerro lost 3-0 to Libertad. And, Ralph, I'll go to you on this one first. I mean, how do you assess both these teams' situation heading into their first game of Libertadores? Obviously, 2 different teams that are looking at different expectations. Obviously, Olimpia, as you know, historical team, always wants to do well, hasn't made a huge improvement in terms of wanting to advance outside of the group stage. They were eliminated last time around, so they obviously want to improve on that. The same with Cerro. They obviously did not make the group stage last year, but beforehand have consistently made it to different Copa Libertadores knockout stage matches. And so I think that's mainly the main objective. And when you think about it, it kind of favors them heading into this first game. So they definitely have to be on the right track if they want to pursue that qualification to the next round.
Yeah, I think you're right, Roberto, that for both teams, the kind of aim is to get out of the group for sure. I mean, both Cerro and Olimpia will feel that they should be taking that second spot, probably behind the Brazilian sides. I mean, if we go to Olimpia first, it's a really interesting time for them because they've been winning these games or staying unbeaten under Orteman, but I still don't really see their style of play or let's say the kind of tactics that Orteman wants. He's gone changing things around a bit. At the weekend, they were losing to Guarani, and I thought Guarani were playing better. But then you had Alejandro Silva, who's been brilliant during Orteman's time. He pops over 2 goals, 2 really good goals. And it's that kind of individual brilliance. And we saw that previously with Recalde. So that at the moment, he has players kind of with the strength of the squad saving him. But I don't know, is this sustainable? And I'm really interested to see what team he puts out tomorrow against Táchira. I was looking at Olimpia, even though historically it's such a great team. They've only won 1 of their last 18 away games in the Copa Libertadores. That is not a very good run of form for anybody, and that's going through a bit of the Garnero time, but that even goes all the way back to 2013, the year they got to the final. That those knockout games, they weren't winning the away games. So it's a tough task for them, and I'm really interested to see how they do, especially after this really long journey that they've had up to San Cristobal. It's not easy. I saw when they tweeted to say they're in the airport, and then when we've landed in Venezuela, it was like 10 hours later, 11 hours later. I mean, it's a long journey, not because I don't think they get to fly direct. So tough game. And then for Cerro, same thing, really. I think Chiqui Arce has always struggled in the Copa Libertadores. That's always been difficult for him. He's only won 4 games in the Libertadores as Cerro manager, and that was all at home. So he's never won away. So now they go away to América de Cali. And even though technically the game, you could say, is on neutral ground because it's in Bucaramanga, but you feel that for Cerro, it's still a lot of pressure on them. And you feel, they're doing the long journey themselves to get there. And another, I think, difficult matchup. So, I mean, just off the bat, both my predictions, I don't think either Paraguayan side can win, but I'm hoping they both avoid defeat.
Well, that sounded a little how do you pessimistic? Ralph, I'm gonna say that they'll have good games. If you guys have listened to the interview that we did, that these Venezuelan teams are starting up, and there's they still have not as much experience in the Libertadores as our teams do. So in that case, that's a positive that they can have. I see both teams are taking their entire squad. So there's not a lot of down players. Only a few of them. I believe Cerro has about 3 or 4 that are not playing due to injuries, and Olimpia has about 1. So in reality, they have a lot of options to play with, and we'll see what kind of team both Chiqui and Orteman are going to put together tomorrow and the next few days when Cerro plays. But I think they're going to do well. Cerro might be a little more tougher for them, but against a Venezuelan team that the Olimpia will be facing, I have full confidence that they'll get through at least this team so far.
Well, I'm surprised actually to hear Ralph's words, especially because we're playing a Venezuelan team, and usually, Paraguayans, they think they're favorites against these kind of teams. I hope Olimpia can break those numbers that Ralph was talking about. It's amazing to hear that they haven't won that many games, especially playing away. That's something that they will need to do in this Libertadores. Obviously, they will have to win their home games, but both teams really need to step up their games, especially from what we've seen these last couple of matches from them, from Olimpia and from Cerro Porteño. They are the most popular teams here in Paraguay, and obviously they have a lot of fans behind them to make it big in Libertadores. Olimpia has the history behind them. Obviously, they are a different team. They are a different team when they get through the group phase. I think they get the respect out of the rivals when they are head to head with big teams. But they need to get out of the group stage, which has been something very difficult for them these last couple of years, even though they've been playing the Libertadores, and they haven't felt comfortable before having to play every 3 days. This is something that I've seen from this Olimpia squad last year, and ever since they have a tight calendar. I don't think they have the roster to really rotate players, so they really need to be fit. They really need to get their players back. I was hearing today, Olimpia is getting back Brian Ojeda. He just practiced normally. We're talking about a CM or a center midfielder that was playing in the starting team before he got injured. So maybe, this is a player that you can use in there. They've been using Hugo Quintana there lately. They've been trying out different midfielders. Like I said it on the last episode, and I'm agreeing on Ralph on this one. Olimpia doesn't have the style yet. You don't see it there, and you don't see the starting team either, especially in the midfield. He's been changing there, and that's a very important part of the team that needs to work, that needs to be 100% for the rest of the team to also play out. Roque is fully recovered. We saw him play again versus Guarani on the second half. Richard Ortiz also played that game. He started, so he's back also. These are very important players because they have the experience. They played Libertadores before. Roque it's his last year. It's his last Libertadores, so it's going to be a special one for him. Obviously, he wants to leave something there, right, in his book, in his story. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to this Olimpia side in Libertadores, because in the Paraguayan tournament, he makes the difference in Olimpia, and he needs to take that also to the Libertadores stage. And then I have my doubts in the midfield, like I was just saying, Stigarribia, Sosa on the left side. I just said Brian Ojeda. I don't know who's going to play with Richard Ortiz. I have a lot of doubts to see what Orteman's first international game is going to look like, his style, and also his strategy, especially playing against a team we don't know much about. Thanks to Jordan that got us up to date on that team a little bit on that preview video. If you guys want to watch it, it's up on our YouTube channel also. And then talk about Cerro Porteño, guys. Cerro Porteño had a big game this past weekend, and probably they are tired because Libertad made a run for it. Cerro had his chances. Boselli should have scored a couple of goals. He had two big chances on the game to put Cerro Porteño up. Actually, it was a really good match. I thought Cerro Porteño did a good first half, but then you saw Libertad scoring. They ended up scoring 3 goals and getting the best out of this match. That's a special one for Libertad. They gotten used to going to Cerro Porteño's home ground and winning there ever since Cerro Porteño got their new stadium. Cerro is having problems. I talked about this before. Alberto Espinola, the right back for this team and also for the national team, he is not himself lately after his injuries and also recovering from COVID. I'm not seeing the best out of Santiago Arzamendia either. Juan Patiño even came out of this team during the game. He was subbed out because he was so nervous. He had just gotten a yellow card and Chiquiazo took him out. I mean, the defense is not looking good. They got 6 goals in 2 games. Maybe we'll even see Gian, the Brazilian goalkeeper that came for Rodrigo Munoz that got injured, the emergency transfer that Cerro Porteño brought in. He might even start because Miguel Martinez was given the opportunity, but in these last couple of games, Cerro Porteño hasn't looked strong back there. So maybe Gian might get his chance in this first game. You got to try him out, right? And then obviously talk about Libertad a little bit more, but we were just talking about Cerro Porteño, Olimpia, their preview of Libertadores, and that's what I think about them. I think they need to really step up their game if they want to do something in their groups, especially because they have a couple of strong teams. They need to get a good result on this first match. I think a draw even for Olimpia in Venezuela is not a bad result. And for Cerro Porteño, I do think that after the 3-0 against Libertad, they need to come in strong with a good performance. It doesn't matter if they play home or away; they have to play in Colombia. But I do think they do have to have a strong performance, a good game, show their style. Claudio Aquino needs to take over. He has to be the best player for this team. He is their number 10. He is the playmaker, so he needs to come in big. He might even have back one of his partners in crime, like I like to say, Federico Carrizo, who's been out of the team lately. He might get a chance back at that midfield that hasn't looked good either. Their midfielders are not scoring. They've been needing for Morales to score lately, or Borselli, because their midfielders are not scoring like they used to last year. So Cerro Porteño has a lot to do better from their side, I believe, Roberto.
Absolutely. I think
I've just
go ahead, Ralph.
sorry, Roberto. I just wanted to jump in quickly because while you guys were talking, I did check my blog preview for Olimpia, and I did actually say they would win. So I don't know. Now I got really negative talking about their
Make up your mind.
Maybe I should. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go. Okay, Olimpia win, Cerro draw. There we go. Like, keep it there.
We'll be optimistic on some.
No, sorry guys. I was just gonna say, the Libertadores is the biggest stage for both of these teams, and obviously, if they want to win this major prestigious competition, they need to show, and they need to prove to everyone, not just Paraguay. They need to prove to the entire world that they deserve this. And as of right now, we are optimistic, but I mean, I don't honestly see that will that they need to have, that will to win, that the performance is not up top, that as much as we would want to see for them to win this competition.
Yeah, but this Libertadores is very long, Maria. I mean, even it's cut in like two parts. You have this first part, this group stage, then you have Copa America in the middle, and then you come back for the final stages. So a lot can happen during the year. I think these teams can go and play a couple of games and start building up. That's why I think they need to step up their game. And what better than Libertadores games to do that, right? And get the wins. They need them.
Well, they definitely do it. I think in a tournament like this, where now it's crunch time, because not only are you, and we've said this previously, like with the league already being as tight as it is, and with both these teams still in contention to win it, they have no choice but to focus on both contenders, on both instances. The fact that they have all the opportunity to win.
I actually think Cerro Porteño can focus only on Libertadores now, because
really,
the result I think they can just let go of the local tournament. They're too far away. We only have 7 matches, and they need to get their head on Libertadores. They don't have that much roster, Roberto. They're gonna have to rotate. They're gonna have to use other players. Chiqui Arce even took players out of the match when his team was already losing by a couple of goals, because he said, I'm gonna take these guys out. I need them for the next match in Libertadores. He was already thinking about that match and not thinking about the local tournament. That match was over when Libertad scored that second goal.
I mean, I think it's obviously going to be a long way back for Cerro Porteño. I mean, the gap is getting much more bigger, but I think that is in their ambition, that they want to go for the league title and also compete at the Libertadores. That being said, with the depth that they have, with the team that they have, it's going to be so difficult for them to be able to compete on both levels at full strength when you're having these games midweek and on the weekend and traveling and all that kind of stuff. It can get to you, and it can be draining, not just for Cerro, but also for Olimpia, who they themselves are still trying to catch up. So maybe this is a situation that both these teams really want to go all in for the Libertadores. I doubt that they will, because they want to go for all the titles out there. But Fede, you do bring up a good point. I mean, so from what you're saying, you think that Cerro are out of this contention for the league right now?
Yeah, I think after losing this big game, it's going to be really hard for them to get back into it. They do have the match coming up against Olimpia in a couple of games. That's a very important game here in Paraguay, just to win it, because it's the Super Clásico, and you can maybe get closer to Libertad. But Libertad needs to lose 2 games now for Cerro Porteño to be champion, or to get up there again in the top spot. I see it really hard, and they don't have that much roster. So I think Chiqui Arce needs to tell these guys that the priority right now is going to be Libertadores, and his starting team needs to be there 100%. That's what I think, especially on these first matches. You have to get comfortable in the group, get a couple of points, and then maybe speculate on the last matches on Libertadores, and then put that starting team also in the local league. But Cerro Porteño, after losing 3-0 to Libertad, I think it's really over for them. That's my opinion.
And not to mention as well that teams like Libertad and Nacional are not playing in international competitions, so none of them will be in the Libertadores or the Sudamericana, which could indeed favor them in terms of being able to fight for that league title when not too many games are being played at the same time. So yeah, that is a good point. But ultimately, I think in the end, I think Olimpia and Cerro have the capability of being able to get a result away from home, as you said. Ralph, Olimpia haven't won that many away games in such a long time. Chiqui Arce has never won an away game as a manager of Cerro Porteño. So obviously records have to be broken. But I think with the team that they have, and if they are really going to focus on this Libertadores and to get maximum points to be able to qualify out of the group stage, then they have to put all their eggs in the basket to focus on it. And they have to bounce back. Because even like you said, Fed, that even though the teams have been getting some wins, they have getting some draws, it's not as convincing as one would think. It's not a team. It's not. They're not two teams that think, yeah, these guys can do damage in the Libertadores. No, it's not like that. And so that's where the issue comes. And I think that's that big test. The big test that happens Tuesday and Wednesday will demonstrate how serious they are in this competition. So it'll be interesting to see. I think both sides are in a positive situation to get a result. I think, like you said, Fede, I think if they do get a tie in either of the two games, that would be a perfect result to take back home to Paraguay. But of course, got to keep it up when you're winning games at home as well, because that's where you have to demonstrate how strong you are, and obviously to get as much momentum to get out of the group. So will definitely be interesting to see. And it's good that you mentioned about that league. And I wanted to go to Maria on this one. We still have the league going on. We saw Nacional get the win over Sportivo Luqueño, Libertad obviously getting that win against Cerro Porteño. And it's still looking as if though it is a race. I mean, obviously Olimpia are still in there. There's still a lot of games to go on, like you said, Fede. But do you feel as if though it's starting to get it a little bit tighter now with only a few teams? I mean, what do you expect? I think from now, these teams that are competing in the Libertadores having to focus on two games basically every week.
Well, yeah, I think Fede said it correctly, that these two big teams like Olimpia and Cerro are further and further away from the first spot, and possibly not winning the competition, the league. So their focus now is bigger things, the Libertadores, and the Libertad, who just got eliminated, now have all their focus back on the league. I mean, they were still doing well in this league, but now they have their entire attention towards this, and possibly winning this competition. I'm not sure when was the last time they won, but winning this could mean good for them, because coming from this big loss and terrible way of going out of the Libertadores, and winning this could turn things around for them, and give them lift their spirits up. In terms of Olimpia and Cerro, yeah, it's still a long time, like Fede said, that the Libertadores will be over. But if they want to continue and they want to stay in the competition, they need to be fully focused as well. I mean, it's obviously a lot that's going on as of right now. They all these big teams have a lot of competitions to go through, but that's what it is, and that's how it is. If you're in the big teams, you're in the big leagues as well.
Going to Libertad specifically, I think Maria is right that after that disappointment of the Libertadores, you wondered how they would react, and they came through with a great result against Cerro. And now their next game is against Nacional, who are just 1 point behind. You have the two teams with the best defense in the league, Nacional and Libertad, in terms of least goals conceded. And what I think is we're going to get a really interesting matchup at that weekend, because Libertad in the last maybe 2 or 3 league games that I've seen them, they've started to play a lot more direct football, like hitting the ball long, going into the channels. And that was very effective against Cerro Porteño, because of course Cerro have that great midfield that I've talked about on here before of Pica, Lucena and Villasanti, who are very good when they have control. But of course, by playing vertical football, you're kind of bypassing midfield. And they have Tito Villalba, who's come back and is starting to perform as you would have expected him. And you saw Villalba that in the game against Guarani, when he scored that goal, or he scored Yeah, he scored 1 goal, 1 disallowed. He was getting in behind the defense. Cerro played much deeper, but he was still able to get into wide areas, help work the ball. I think, like Fede mentioned, like Arzamendi and Beto Spinola weren't having some of their best games. And so they used that long ball into the channel to get those crosses in and get their goals. That's going to be really effective against Nacional, because if you look at how Nacional play with Lopez, he likes the team to be like pressing really high. So they're going to play quite a high line and try and press Libertad. So if Libertad have this outlet again of the long ball into the channel, and you have Antonio Barreiro who came on, scored one, set one up, he's back from injury, he looked really good. Or you have Tito Villalba, or you have the pace of Enciso, who's only 17 years old, but has scored 3 goals now in the last week. There's some really interesting weapons to attack Nacional. So I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup, and it's such a key game because, like we're talking about, Cerro and Guarani are kind of dropping off the pace. They play each other at the weekend, so someone's going to take points off somebody else. Olimpia is going to be coming back from Venezuela, so they have, this huge trip, and probably will play a mixed team. So this Libertad Nacional game could be very key for the title. I think if Libertad win, then it's pretty much is their title. And Maria was mentioning the last time they won, if memory serves, because I was there, it was the 2017 Apertura with Fernando Cubero, where they finally won, or Cubero finally won the league after being runner-up a long time. And then since then, we've had the kind of dominance of Carnero with Guarani, with Olimpia, and then just that one title of Cerro last year. But I think if Libertad win at the weekend, then it really could be for them. If Nacional win, or it's a draw, then I think we still have an open title race, because I don't see Nacional having the strength and depth. And this week they were very lucky. I mean, I don't know if Fede wants to talk about the VAR decision that they had in the 99th minute against Luqueño. Luqueño were holding them 0-0, and it was just that penalty in the 99th minute that gave them the 1-0 win.
Yeah, but they still have their style. They're always a very attacking team. They just couldn't score before in the game. That's what I think about their last game against Sportivo Luqueño, which was decided by VAR. It's weird how they handle VAR here in Paraguay. People don't know what's going on here. Every weekend we have board members complaining about this, about how they use it, about the terms they use, how they communicate with each other, the refs, the decision making. There's a lot of questioning going on around here in Paraguay with VAR, especially with those people that have the power over the refs, the ones that train them every week. So it's not an easy time, but that usually goes on here also when this tournament goes into this phase, or gets into the end of it, where each point is even more important. And Cerro Porteño went after the refs after the last game, and we're gonna hear this a lot. It happened obviously again in that Sportivo Luqueño Nacional match because of the way it ended. The ref didn't see a penalty in the pitch, but he went to the monitor, and after watching it a couple of times, he saw the contact on the line and said that it had to be penalty for Nacional, which was the last. It was the last play of the game. So Nacional won with that. It was, it's controversial, but it is what it is, and the refs have their last say in these kind of plays, and it is what happened for Nacional. 3 very important points, but now they have their most important match against Libertad, and Libertad looks strong. They've been consistent, and that's why they are at top. Obviously, it was an embarrassment what happened with them against Atlético Nacional. I still can't believe how they that meltdown that they had in that game. But Libertad won a very important game for them against Cerro Porteño. That first goal was key from Tito Villalba. We're finally seeing that Tito Villalba that we used to watch on TV from Atlanta United, that speed guy, the guy that could also score. After 2 years, maybe we're finally seeing that Tito Villalba that Libertad was probably expecting when they hired him. Carnero is rotating players. He doesn't have a starting team, but he's getting the best out of players like Julio Enciso. Give me props for that, please, because I talked about this guy a long time ago. He just turned 17 years old on February, and I was looking at his stats, and oh my God, this guy has been scoring and scoring in these last couple of games. He did it in Libertadores. He did it also in the local tournament. So I'm really happy about him, and I'm happy that he's playing as a forward now. He used to play as a midfield, as a playmaker, and now they got him closer to the goal, and he's scoring. He's playing alongside Oscar Cardoso, that has him there, like Maria said once, like his little son, like his little brother, and he's really taking care of him. He even fought a couple of rivals there in the pitch when they try to go against Julio Enciso, when they try to hammer him a lot, because obviously he's a speed kind of player. He's very fast. He's very talented, natural talent. He can score. He can assist. He did it against Cerro Porteño. He's doing so much, and he's just having fun. He's really a fun guy to watch, a fun player to watch. And what can we say about Libertad? Also, Antonio Barreiro is back. This is a very important player. He scored his 12th goal against Cerro Porteño. That's a totally other story, maybe to tell in this episode. But Antonio Barreiro is back, and he can be a key player for Garnero. I think he can make it to the starting team also. This does not erase what happened in Libertadores, but they are at top in the Paraguayan league. And I think Garnero, their coach, really needs to win this title, really needs to win this league to keep his job. If not, Libertad is probably going to look into another manager, because what they want is also for Libertad to make it big in the international tournaments, like we always say.
Absolutely. And I think it'll be a very interesting league. And Ralph, I mean, obviously, you look at the talent that someone like Julio Enciso is, it looks like the newest brightest gem of Paraguayan football at the moment.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, in the first game of the season when Libertad and Nacional faced each other, Libertad won 3-0, and it was Enciso that scored the first goal as well. So I mean, the kid's been on fire recently, but he's been showing, when he burst onto the scene last year, because he scored a goal in the Copa Libertadores against Wilstermann. And then, yeah, he's playing really well, and he has that kind of precedence against Nacional. So definitely a player to watch out for. And I'm sure, lots of people listening or watching the show will be interested, because at 17, I mean, it's a very bright future.
100%. And obviously we look at some of the bright talents that we have in our Paraguayans abroad. We did see some of them score. We saw Angel Romero getting a goal for San Lorenzo. Unfortunately, will not be in the Copa Libertadores, but will be in the Sudamericana, actually. So we will see more of him in the international competition. We also saw Antonio Sanabria getting goals over there in Torino. He's continuing his form. And I'm sure he's just continuing to listen to our show. I mean, Maria, I'm sure he just, at this point, you got to talk to him. I mean, certainly you got to have some sort of secret on how he's gotten so good. But it's been great to see both these guys do well and running on good form, especially during this part of the season. So it's very great to see, that's for sure. Obviously, we do have other stuff that's been going on. We do have the Copa Sudamericana that is going to begin this week. We saw that the group stages will be happening with just a little rundown of what's going to happen. Obviously, we have 12 de Octubre in a group with Rosario Central, Huachipacho, and San Lorenzo. So obviously, the Romero twins will be taking on their fellow compatriots in that group. River Plate of Asunción will be taking on in a really tight group. They got Corinthians, Peñarol, and Sport Huancayo. And Libertad in Group F will be taking on News Old Boys, Palestino, and Atlético Guayanense. So guys, I mean, just real quick, looks like tight groups for all three of these teams. So, I mean, we talk about how competitive Libertadores is, but I think for the Paraguayan teams in the Sudamericana, it looks a bit much. I mean, Fede, this is definitely going to be a hard one for these teams.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I went for 12 de Octubre over Nacional, but I didn't think their style was really going to make it beyond this. And now to see them go against these kind of games, I want to see if they can really keep it up. I want to see if they can do something big in this tournament. It's going to be fun to see if they keep up that same defensive style that they've been playing against the big teams, or if they're really going to try to play a little bit more attacking football. I want to see that out of their coach, Pedro Sarabia. They have a couple of more players now available. They had they had a lot of problems with COVID at the beginning of the tournament. And that was actually an opportunity to hire more players that we're seeing now in the starting team, like Juan Aguilar in the midfield, a couple of strikers also. So Octubre has more roster now, I think, to go into this tournament. They also have players with experience like Pablo da Silva. They have their forward Pablo Velasquez. They even have players that have played in Europe before. So I think they can make a run for it, but it's really going to depend on the results and just how fit they can stay. And River, that's a complete different story. They've been having a lot of trouble. I did their game, like I said at the beginning of the show, against Sol de America, and they just haven't been able to score lately. They're having a lot of problems scoring. I think they haven't scored in the local league in their last 4 or 5 games. That's probably why Kike Landaida, their former coach, put the job over there on the desk and told the president, if you want me to leave, I'll leave. And the president said, yeah, it's time for you to go. And they hired Celso Ayala now. Let's see if he can bring up the spirit of these guys, get the best out of them, because they really do have talent. They have Pablo Ceballos out there. They have a couple of midfielders that I personally really like Marcelo Gonzalez. I think these are all players that in the international stage can lift up their game, and it's a big opportunity for some of them to also keep showing themselves off, to maybe have a big transfer. It is a big opportunity for these teams for that to happen, also for River and for 12 de Octubre, which is really hard for them to have these kind of exposure that they will have in this Sudamericana now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a very interesting competition for all these teams. And we also want to wish them the best of luck, obviously. Hopefully they do surprise us. We do want to wrap up before we do finish up, going on back to Fede on this one, is that the Intermedia and the third divisions actually started this week. You were at one of the games, Fede. And so just for everyone that perhaps are more interested in what's been going on in the lower leagues in Paraguay, what's going on? What's the situation? And what's your overall thoughts of how the season's been going?
Yeah, I've actually been looking into it. It's been 2 weeks now of Intermedia, the second division. I'm actually really concerned because these lower leagues will have to be extra careful with COVID cases, because they won't be tested every week like it happens on the top division, on the first division. So hopefully that's not a problem in these first couple of games. But I am seeing that a lot of players are having problems coming back in their level, keeping up the pace also during the game. Most of them have other jobs besides football during the week, and most of them have been away from the pitches. Most of them haven't been able to play 90 minutes. So I'm really seeing a lot of injured players. I did the other day Deportivo Santani, which is a team from San Estanislao. That's a city from the countryside. This is a team that was in the first division, like 12 de Mayo, which was the rival this weekend. And Deportivo Santani lost two players in the first half. Their center backs due to injuries, and these were injuries caused mainly because they haven't been playing lately. It's hard for these teams to get back into the rhythm. So we're seeing tight games. We're seeing a lot of draws. We're seeing a lot of games with low scores for now. I think we're going to see the best out of Intermedia, and also the third division that started out this weekend, like I said, with really fun matches. I think they're really going to have problems getting back into that normal rhythm. It's been almost 2 years for some of these guys without playing, and I think that's what's going to happen with this particular 2 divisions that I'm following. But there are players that will come on, and we'll probably talk about some of them. There are a lot of youngsters that are playing there in Intermedia and the third division, because the youth leagues haven't come back here in Paraguay. So most of these teams have gone and taken that young talent that was probably without jobs lately, and maybe we'll see a couple of teams building up from around there. And then we have a lot of teams that also have a lot of experienced players that haven't found a job in the first division and now are playing in Intermedia and the third division. And I think Ralph got a fun question, or a weird question, I don't know how to call it, from one of our followers, and he wants to answer it. I want to know what he's going to say about it.
Yeah, well, before I do, one player that has hit the ground running is actually a friend of my sister-in-law's, Digno Gonzalez, who used to play at Cerro Porteño, I think is a Rubio New. He's top scorer in Intermedia with 3 goals in 2 games for 12 de Febrero. It's from Caraguatau, which is where my wife's from. So I'm happy to see him doing well, because he of course wasn't playing all this time. He set up like a fast food stand to sell food to, like a lot of players did at this time, like took on other jobs, but he has hit the ground running. And also Julian Benitez, Resistencia, I think he scored both their goals so far. And Julian Benitez is a player that did very well in Guarani and Olimpia in his time.
He played a final of Libertadores with Nacional.
Yeah, with Freddy Barreiro, who we also interviewed, and that interview is also up for people if they haven't watched it yet. But going to the question, yeah, I mean, on Twitter, you know, people like to ask a lot of questions about Paraguayan football, and one was a good one. It's, you know, why are so many teams named after dates? Because it seems to be a very Paraguayan phenomenon. We get, like in South America, you get some teams with the English sounding names, you know, Boca Juniors, River Plate, and it's to do with some of the British kind of immigration and, you know, the railway workers and all that kind of thing. But then the dates, I haven't seen any other countries. So we talk about 12 de octubre, but then you have, you know, a bunch. 3 de febrero, I just mentioned actually, so 3rd of February, 12th of October. These are kind of the dates we're talking about. And I don't know, I my understanding is sometimes is when the club was founded. Sometimes it's when the city was founded, so the city that the club was in. Very often, and this is quite interesting, is after a date of a battle, an important battle in history, or maybe a date of a saint's day. So saint's days are very important. I mean, for those watching from the UK, I mean, we kind of have like 4 saints days. You have like St. George for England, you have like St. David for Wales, St. Patrick's for Ireland, which is like now globally well known, and for Scotland, I need to remember St. Andrew. So you have these like different days, but we have 4. But in Paraguay, it's like you have so many. Like there can be a saints feast like pretty much every week, depending on which town you go to and that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's the curious thing. But I can't tell you why in Paraguay this became a tradition compared to other countries.
But then you have a whole bunch of other Olimpias from the countryside that usually are called Olimpia and the city. And then you have a whole bunch of Guarani, because Guarani was very big in the 50s, in the 60s. It was like the best team. And in the countryside, there's a lot of teams that are also called after these big teams from the capital. And they just put the city name after, like Guarani from Trinidad, which is playing in the Intermedia in the 2nd division. We have Olimpia from Ita, which plays in the 3rd division. So you have a whole bunch of examples. We're just weird about this.
I just wanted to point out, there's one other team that's from my city that I was raised in when I was living in Paraguay. I don't know, Fede, if you're familiar with them. I think that they're in 3rd division or something. 22 de septiembre, 22 of September. They're actually a very well-known club in Encarnacion. So, you know, that's one of those clubs that have their dates. I don't know. I think it's part of, no, their founding date was 3rd of October. So it has nothing to do with their founding date.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see. I mean, you talk about stuff in the Super League and wanting just this all inclusiveness, but go to Paraguay, there's a team for everyone. So maybe of you Europeans are not exactly a fan of this new Super League idea and maybe want another team or a league to support, just go to Paraguay. We have teams about on dates, teams that are about certain people, saints, everything. They got something for you. So you're all welcome to come in. And with that, guys, I think it's a perfect segue to close on another great episode of Guarani Vision. Obviously, everyone can like, subscribe, listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your consumption of this podcast. And for myself, Roberto Rojas, Maria Britos, Ralph Hanna, and Fede Perez, thank you so much for listening to another episode. See you soon.